Little brown girl, you are so beautiful to me. I hope you see.
Hi guys, my name is Tamika House, and I am the creator of Tracy Tamika, my memoir podcast. Please tune into season 3, streaming on all platforms, including YouTube, right now.
All right, y'all, we are here for another episode of Traces of Mika. And as I continue my journey of healing and discovering a new me, I'm joined here by my good friend, Crystal Jordan, of maybe almost 15 years, somewhere around it. And Crystal has a new book called Dear Alpha Female, y'all. So I really wanted to bring her in for season 3 because Crystal has known me in my dating history for quite a while. I remember we've had a lot of conversations about my take on dating. And now I have transitioned to a new approach to dating as I am evolving into a grown woman, I would say. I'm growing up and stuff. And I wanted to come have Crystal come on and talk about this subject of being an alpha female, what they're really going to look like. Because I still am an alpha female, but I am a different type of alpha female. We're going to talk about that. So, Crystal, thank you so much for being a part of Traces and Mika. Finally!
I know, like I was supposed to be in the first season.
Yeah.
And then you just didn't, and you just kept, so I'm just good to finally be here.
It's probably good that you wasn't in part of season 1 because season 1 was so heavy. I was still like neck deep in healing.
Yeah.
And I chose to heal openly.
Yeah, you did. But I told you, I appreciate that because as your friend, I've watched you. Like we'll have our meetups every once in a while, but then I also watch the journey and you share so much, on social. But I think it's healing for other people to have someone that's actually able to add voice to their experience. So,
and I did, y'all. I probably overshared. But I think that for me to really do justice with this project of Trace and Mika, y'all, this is the last season of Trace and Mika. I'm transitioning to doing some other stuff. I don't want to talk about my business no more. But for me to really get through some of the things I was dealing with, I had to talk about it. And I didn't want to just graze the surface. I really wanted to be raw with it. And plus, I didn't do nothing.
Yeah.
I was innocent. People were doing stuff to me, so I was telling. I want to tell all their business. This is what they did to me. And I'm sad and I'm mad. And I want y'all to be sad and mad with me. That was the whole point.
Okay.
But I had to deal with understanding motherhood. I had to learn on my own. I didn't have, we both experienced it. I having a mother. As mothers ourselves, and grown up as women and dating and really having to discover about that on our own. I didn't have that guidance, and so you and I can really share a lot of that sentiment of just having to discover ourselves and discover men and relationships and being a mother and finding balance and dreaming and all of that at the same time. And so now we're both in different spaces, right?
Very much so.
So you are 2 years married now.
I am a year and a half married.
Okay.
In this relationship for 3 years.
Okay.
And I never thought that, I did not see this happening. I did not see this happening.
I kind of did because you used to put it out there. Like you would speak about the desires of wanting to be in a relationship or just love. Like you were open to love again, and I was like, man, fuck love. I don't want love. Like I got a boyfriend here, a boyfriend over there. Like I was just doing me. Yeah. And he was like, oh, I wish I could do that.
I think mine was more like at a certain point I realized I did not want that experience, my marriage ending in a horrible way. I didn't want to give that marriage the power to hold me back. Right. You know what I mean? So it was a little bit agenda motivated. Like, I'm not going to let that failure and the fact that you decided that you didn't want me to be your wife, that's not going to be the end of my story.
Right.
And so really that drove me for a long time. So I don't think I really believed it. I believed it for other people. Like, I would talk to you, I would talk to my other friends, but I don't think I actually visualized it. I visualized I'm not going to let this beat me.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's kind of like what alpha females do. It's like,
and
you're not going to be
good job for him. Like, for him to step on over here, he helped you out for real.
He did, but I did not see it like that for a long time.
We never really did.
Long time. Yeah.
And for me, no, I won my song.
You did. Yours was different.
Mine was just
holding on. I was holding on. I was sad. I was heartbroken. You were like, good riddance.
I'm like, man, F you, okay. And because my situation with my first marriage was not only toxic, but I saw a side that nobody else would see.
Yeah.
And so he was very good with stepping out in public and presenting a different person.
Wow.
And then people are like, what? He did that? That's him? He did. And I'm like, yeah.
It was Dr. Jekyll.
Yeah. And so then I would see him interact in public and how he would talk to people. And I'm like, this dude is psycho. Because I see a whole other side.
Yeah.
And that ain't him.
Yeah.
And for a long time, I had to come to peace with, yes, I chose him. I had to start taking accountability in my choices. I chose him. I had children with him. And that's my choice. So I have to stop being upset about the person that I chose. And I think a lot of people are upset about, they don't like their baby mama, they don't like their baby daddy, but you chose them.
You chose them. That's a lot of people like that. Men and women. I'm glad you brought men into the conversation, because it's like, you can't be angry at the children. You can't be angry at the woman, because at the end of the day, you lay down with them. And the same thing for me. Now, my situation was a little different. We were together for 13 years. We got married just way too young. Right. I'm going to put it on that, even though for me, I probably would have been fine staying married. But I think men have to go through a different type of maturity. And I had probably 10 years that were great. Like when I first met you, I was in a great place, right?
Yeah.
When I was in Oklahoma, you know, I had what a lot of people thought was a perfect marriage, I thought. And then we went through a huge tumultuous time with me being sick and then him losing his job. And it brought out a side of him that I hadn't seen. So he ended up having an affair and just decided to be done with the marriage after 13 years. So that was a huge blow, because we had a really good relationship. He was like my best friend for 10 years, you know? So it was hard for me to not only let go of him, but let go of that picture that we had.
Yeah.
You know, our families were connected. I loved his mom and dad, his brother. You know, we had these 2 kids that came from. So for me, I was caught up in always trying to make the picture look right. And I was like, now I'm going to be a single mom. I'm not going to have this family. We're struggling. So it was really hard for me to make peace with that.
Yeah, I can imagine.
You know,
I can imagine that being really hard. And then you had to transition into being a single mom
in Atlanta.
Yeah, and this is kind of like when our journeys kind of crossed, because eventually I too became a single mom, but by choice. Yeah. And because granted, when I was married, I was still a single mom. I felt, because I was doing everything. Yeah. But it came to the point where I had to find a good balance between my dreams and being an active parent. Yeah. Because I am not soft and feminine like that. And so this is going to go into the alpha female. We're going to get to the point. So I'm not naturally soft and feminine. Yeah. And even in my marriage, I didn't have the chance to be. Yeah. Because I was either, pursuing goals, paying bills, managing the family. I was taking care of the children by myself. My ex was in the military, so often he was in and out. He went to the Iraq war a few times. Take care of the family and really manage everything on my own. So I knew how to do everything on my own, because I've been doing it on my own. Yeah. But when it came time to really trying to explore different relationships outside of my marriage now, it got to the point where I was a little bit dominant, I guess, a little bit more masculine, I guess, in a sense. And then my take on relationships, because I got married young, I wasn't wanting to be tied down. I didn't see the point in that. Right. If it's not leading to marriage, why am I just talking to you? Yeah. Let me just talk to everybody I want to talk to. And some people didn't like that. Yeah. But I was always very honest about how I really wanted to pursue dating and things like that. If you're not going to come in and I guess pay my bills. Because this is when guys think that we gold diggers, right? Yeah. But let's break it down layman's terms. Let's break it down layman's terms. Cool. So you want me to give you my time. You want me to do it to you. And you don't want me to talk to nobody else. Right. Okay, so what am I getting? What's the benefit? What are we doing? That's a real question. But I think before we get there, we have to go back to, you said something that was really important that I think in writing this book, I had to realize, because I actually became, after being a single mom and being in Atlanta, being an entrepreneur,
where in my marriage I was soft and feminine, I couldn't be that way anymore.
Right.
So it created an alpha. So I asked women, like, what created your alpha? So I know from your story, first of all, losing your mother, right? At an early age, you're no longer being able to be taken care of. You are now the sole provider for yourself. Everything is on you. You realize that. And then also being with a man that does not make you feel safe and secure creates an alpha personality.
That part.
Right? So, and then you're also very ambitious and career driven, right? Mm-hmm. And so all those things together created this alpha personality. And it's not realistic to assume that you could be this personality in one aspect of life and it wouldn't carry over into others. That's just not realistic. Right. Men are like, oh, well, you should be like this alpha and this aggressive woman at work, but come home and not be. That doesn't happen. People are who you are. You show up as who you are. But I think a lot of times, especially for women of color, our alpha is created out of struggle.
That part,
right?
Yes.
And so we need to be in situations with men that are, first of all, understand that, and then are able to step in and provide that feeling of safety and security. Because someone like yourself, and even myself after I was divorced, I'm like, I'm not giving up the reins to you. I don't trust you. Mm-hmm. And if I don't trust you, I would look at men that I would meet and I'm like, I have 2 children and I'm taking care of my home, I'm taking care of my car, the bills are paid. Yeah. You're not doing that for your situation. So why would I trust you to take care of me? I'm going to hold on to these reins, sir.
And they don't know, why am I doing it to you?
Why?
Like, honestly though, like, granted, no, you don't have to take care of my bills. You don't have to.
Right.
Not at all, because I'm not saying that I can't. You don't have to take care of my bills.
Right.
But you do have to date me. You do have to take me out. You do have to make me feel safe.
Right.
You do need to support me emotionally.
Mm-hmm. Or why are we doing why?
Yeah, because what's the point?
I didn't understand the point. So, for me, I actually, and I don't think this is everybody's journey, but for me, I actually decided, I was like, I'm going to be celibate. Because
I remember you said that, like, girl.
I know, but I was tired of, because for me, I know sex was very connected to my emotional, right? My emotional being. So when I'm laying down, first of all, the sex is not always good.
No, it's not.
Okay, it's not always good. If I don't trust you, first of all, to actually be able to relax and feel like you're someone I can feel secure with, I'm not going to really enjoy sex with you anyway.
It's just true.
Because I'm always either I'm performing. Right?
And which is fake.
Which is, sometimes it's fun, but it's not really fulfilling. You know what I mean?
If I'm performing, I'm putting on a performance, it's probably because I'm acting.
Yeah, I'm acting. And I think, I think women enjoy acting sometimes, but that's not fulfilling for me. Right? Mm-hmm. That's really just me showing myself, this is how
I'm trying to please you. And then I get to the point, okay, so why am I doing that?
What am I getting out of that? It's not really being reciprocated.
Yeah.
So I just decided I quit because I wasn't meeting guys. I was like, I'm done. I'm done with this. It's ridiculous. Like I'm just wasting good. I'm wasting good mileage, and it's not equaling anything, and it's not. I didn't like you doing that, so I was just like, I'm done. I started dating with intention. I would go on sabbaticals from dating for a long time, but I think what's the important part of that conversation is a woman. I feel like career-driven women that are ambitious, that have come from a struggle foundation, we're not going to show up in a submissive package to anybody. That doesn't make any sense. You have to, now I do think there's some things about ourselves that we have to check when you want a relationship. That means you need to do the work to heal. You need to do the work to make sure that you are a reciprocate. You're a partner that is able to reciprocate and receive. But you also have to be smart about the men that you're with. And I cannot be with a man that I can't trust.
This is true.
Because it's going to bring out an ugly part of Crystal. She's going to talk crazy. Like, I can't do that. So I think in the whole journey of, dear all of you know it's not him, it's you, really it's about knowing who you are and being a better picker of the men. Because I started realizing I can't be laying down with people that I don't. If I wouldn't give you $5,000, and most men I would not trust with $5,000 that I knew, then why would I give you my body? I'm saying, but that's just ridiculous. So I'm saying, so I can't give you something that I know is treasure way more than that. Because I'm not getting this amazing sexual experience out of it if I don't even trust you enough to take care of me. You know what I mean? Like, it's a waste. For me, that's how I looked at it. And that's how I started moving differently. And the result was a man that I've never met a man until I met my husband that I actually truly trust.
Okay. Well, you know what? When I first met you, because first of all, didn't nobody even know you was with this man for so long.
I keep it all social media. I was like, I'm gonna keep this.
I was like, wait, you getting married? When is her date?
I put the engagement photos.
Like, wait, what? What's going on? This is a hoax. What we doing? Because you would have mentioned something. All these years we talked about dating and love and all that. I'm like, you definitely kept a really well kept secret.
I did.
And I like how you delivered your relationship when it was sealed and y'all were going to that permanent level.
Because we had some stuff to work through.
Yeah.
We worked through some stuff first, but we did it just the two of us.
Yeah.
And because I had committed, I'm a relationships editor for a magazine and doing that, I had committed to talking about Black love in a positive way. And I had told myself, I had a conversation with a good friend of mine, and she was like, if you want to, even before I was in a relationship, I was like, I'm single, but I believe in love, and I am tired of our community pitting us against each other. So I'm only going to speak about positivity. So because I was doing that, I had to wait until the time was right, and I knew that this is a relationship I could really trust, and this was something serious as opposed to you had met some other people that were not.
No, and I remember when I finally did meet your husband. I was like, ooh, okay. Totally different from the other ones. You wasn't picking good.
I wasn't picking.
No.
I had some trouble.
It was, like they was good. Like that one lady you was talking about. He was 6'5".
Yeah.
You gotta be way more than
I'll be honest. I like pretty things.
Yeah.
And
your husband's pretty.
He is, but that wasn't the biggest part about him, because actually I like pretty chocolate things. But he's not chocolate. But now I like white chocolate. But before, I'm not gonna lie. Because that was not me. But before I went through a stage where I was only dating they were like athletes, physical trainers, like
muscular.
I was doing too much. Yeah, I was.
I mean, it was fun. It was fun to climb up stuff like that.
It is.
But I see now the choice that you decided to make for yourself was completely different from what you wanted. Right. And God gave you what you needed.
It's true.
And let's go into to Alpha Female a little bit more.
Okay.
Because it's more to being an Alpha Female than just the men that we've dealt with. Society. So we could talk about a lot of different things from the system, from society, from generational curses. It's a lot of different things. And yes, we know that America has strategically done different things to break down the Black family. We know that a lot of things have not been under our control. We know these things. We can talk about this from when our ancestors came here and they were property on up till when they was releasing. They didn't have anything up until when they started building. The welfare system where you can be married. To the crack epidemic when suddenly cocaine was in our neighborhoods and we didn't go overseas to bring it. It was a lot of different things, even down to incarcerating our men. And now we have it's a whole. And I want to get into it too much because I wanted to offend any people, but now it's like the Black man that we saw and knew in the 50s and 60s and took care of their family and they were respectable men and they worked and they took care of the family, and even if they had a whole nothing across town, because they did, they took care of their family too. And everybody respected each other's boundaries. Like that was, and granted, I ain't doing that. Right. I'm just saying. Yeah. They were there. Yeah. To an extent, But somewhere down the line in the 80s, things shifted. And I didn't have a father. So I saw the effects now that I'm a grown woman. I see the effects of not having a Black man in my life. Yeah. And I want to say 34 or 33, I was attempting to still have a relationship with my father, but I was the only one really initiating it. Yeah. And he ghosted me again. Yeah. After he wanted to complain, talking about, oh, my mama did this and did that. We talking about stuff when I was a kid, but I'm here now. Yeah. And I'm trying to have a relationship with you, and you're still not showing up. I think when it comes to us softening up, the key to that is a father figure, or at least some type of positive man that's in our lives that's helping us evolve as women, showing us how we should be treated.
That does exist.
That it does exist. And when we don't have that, we tend to make these horrible choices.
We do. There's statistics that show that you for those of us, I grew up with my father as well. My father was addicted to crack, and he actually overdosed from crack. When I was 26, actually, that is what was the reason that my first book came out. My first book, Under the Cherry Moon, is about a girl that goes and confronts her father, and it was what I would have done in another life. Right? Mm-hmm. And she doesn't trust men and she couldn't understand how her father could abandon her. So I put all the anger I had to my father after he died. I had to do something with that, and it came out in the book. But to your point, I did the same thing. My alpha was created from my father not being there, right? Mm-hmm. So I thought when I was younger, like, okay, if I get good grades and then I'll call him and he'll want a relationship with me. That never worked. I got married. I went to college. I got married. I had a baby. I was constantly trying to prove to him that I was worthy of a relationship. And then when I got the phone call that my grandfather called me a couple of years before he passed and said, because he would make up excuses of why he would never call me back, right? Mm-hmm. And probably my grandfather was just like, you just need to know, he's addicted to drugs. And he would disappear, they would find him, he would be beat up. It was heartbreaking to hear. Yeah. So when that happened, I had to realize I had to do something, because really a lot of pedestals in my life were trying to convince him to have a relationship with me. That's all I had the ability to do, was to achieve, get good grades, do this, be good enough for him. I remember seeing him when I was 12, and I had acne really bad. And I was so worried about he would not love me because I didn't look pretty. Because I had figured out in my head, I didn't have a man in the house, but I figured out the men around us like pretty women. So I felt like I needed to be pretty for my dad to love me. So that is the makings of some really dangerous stuff later. But that's all I had to go on. You know what I mean? So I remember working on using products, so many products on my skin, trying to get my acne under control, because all with the intent of impressing my father. Yeah. So when I ended up getting divorced at 31, that heartbreak transferred back to, you weren't good enough for your dad, you weren't good enough for your husband, and so this wall is created. Well, if I'm not good enough, you're not going to be good enough for me. And so I made my list so long, that most men couldn't even potentially get there, right? Because I had been that rejection from my father it created the alpha female personality. It is responsible for me getting straight A's. It is responsible for me going to college. It is responsible for me putting my kids in private schools and trying to be this perfect person. And I think a lot of times, those of us that are driven, right? Because we can have conversations about, I come in here today, what are you doing? It's like, I'm doing this, and this. A lot of that drive comes from a desire to prove to ourselves, to our families, we're good enough, right? And it's not bad. I think that there are a lot of great qualities that come from that. There are a lot of, when you think of alpha female, people say it in a negative way, but it just means a woman that is a leader, a woman that has great skills. I mean, look what you've done for so many people that look up to you, other writers, other publishers that see this. So these are good qualities, but anything that's built from fear and pain, you have to, at one point, it's going to have to be amended. You're going to have to break down. You're going to have to break it down. I tell people, it's kind of like, if you are sick and you're on an antibiotic, eventually, if you keep taking that antibiotic, it's going to make you sick. Yeah. So whatever you use to kind of get over that pain, eventually you're going to have to let it go.
This is true. And it's interesting that you say this, because my son and I were having this conversation maybe a few days ago, because his dad never shows up for him. Mm-hmm. No. Mm-hmm. But it is almost like it doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. It's almost like he can disappoint him over and over and over and over again. Mm-hmm. And he will give him chance after chance after chance. But I receive the results of how it affects his behavior, his happiness, his identity. And I get angry for him. He doesn't see it. But I see where it's going to lead him. And I'm trying to, I guess, almost reassure him that you are worthy enough, even if he doesn't show up. I'm here. Isn't my
unfortunately,
you know, like y'all like, what's up with these men? They don't show up. They not like.
But you know what? I think a lot of them, and I've had similar situations. You know, with my son and my daughter, and even myself. My mom would look at me like, "Why do you keep calling your dad?" Yeah. But I still would keep calling him. You know, I kept calling him because I mean, at the end of the day, kids are made up of both parts. Mother and father. So even if one is showing up at 100%, there's still at least a half is missing. So, and also I believe a father gives confidence, right? A mother gives nurturing and love. So for me, I had a lot of fake confidence, but not a lot of real internal confidence, right? Because my mom was like, Crystal, you're smart. She loved me, I know that. But I'm not good enough because my dad doesn't love me. So I think boys don't reenact that the same way as girls do. They act out, right?
Yep.
Their sadness turns to anger and acting out, right?
Okay.
But I think if you look at a lot of the men that we're dating, because a lot of the men I dated, they never resolved their abandonment from their father. They never resolved the issue with their mother, and because they can't talk it out like we're doing, it comes out in a relationship with a woman where they're emotionally unavailable
or emotionally abusive.
Right? But that is emotionally abusive is emotionally unavailable because he doesn't know what to do with that pain, and so it comes out in the thing that tries to love him, right? Right. So for me, what was different about my husband now is when we met, he's a military vet. And I had sworn I wasn't going to date military vets either because I had 2 really bad experiences. These Negroes are crazy. I ain't dating no military vets. He told me, I'm a military vet. I have PTSD. My dad died when I was 11. I have abandonment. This is who I am.
Oh, okay.
And I'm in therapy. He was already in therapy. He was already dealing with it. And he already understood that is a part of the method of his issue. What he needed to see. I had never had a man tell me, I mean, he just laid it off. And because he laid it out there, I was able to see that, number one, he was already working on it before I came into the picture. Right. Okay. And then he understood, my mom always told me, if a man is willing to work on things, that's all you need. You know, he gotta be aware. Yeah. So he knew his biggest, him losing his father at a young age left him with a hole. Him being in the military. But most men are not that evolved and haven't even been told it's okay to do that. Now imagine if I had been still in my normal space, I'd have been out the door, right? Which would have probably made him close up and not share that again, right? Yeah. So I think it's like we have to understand what the cycle does to each other. And I had to get to the point where I could forgive my ex-husband. I don't know why he did the things that he did. Right. But what I do is I extend him grace. We have 2 beautiful children. I don't like how he showed up after our divorce. But I had to forgive him, and I had to understand that whatever triggered his behavior is probably connected to some trauma that he hasn't addressed. Just like my response to him leaving was triggered. I mean, it literally became, he left me, he rejected me. I went all the way back to age 6 and felt the rejection from my dad.
I'm not in that space just yet.
We're working. That's why I mentioned it, because I know you're going to get there, and we're going to have this to prove it. Yeah.
I don't like mine.
I know.
Because he's still doing some BS, and I'm still in it.
You're still in it.
I'm not able to just.
I wasn't always like this,
Yeah.
I wasn't always like this, but we got to a point. I got to a point because we don't really have a relationship, but I did get to a point where, and our relationships were different. But I do know, regardless, that when we look at the way Black men are treated and the fact that they just absorb and they never have an opportunity to sit and have this type of conversation, maybe now a little bit more than they used to. Right. But when we were growing up, that wasn't even. So what they did is they passed down all those grandfathers. You watch Fences, right? And you see,
girl,
the Honorable Denzel Washington. plays this character of this man that has all this pain and resentment and disappointment, and he just drinks and has sex with women. And then you pass it down to your son because you don't connect with him. And that's and so we're dating these men that have never addressed all this built up trauma passed through their DNA. And we're trying to make them be. My mother was upset because my father would not be a good man to her. My father was a drug addict because he was raised in my father's mother died when he was born. His father owned a cat house where prostitutes and Johns would come.
Okay.
So
imagine what he saw.
Imagine what he saw. He didn't respect women. Big surprise. Right. So when I learned that, I was like, all this time I want this man to be a father. He doesn't even know how to do that. It is no surprise that he ended up a drug addict. You know, and for my mom to say, well, he wouldn't do it. I love my mom, but how could he?
Yeah.
How could he?
Yeah, I mean, I do. I'm still praying about my situation, mainly because my children, they love their daddies.
Yes, they should.
In spite of.
Yes.
But I also see the effects of that, and no matter what I try to do,
it's
they
not
don't care. It's not going to help.
Yeah.
So it's like, you know, maybe I should have been an absent parent, like because maybe I don't know, like I don't know what to do to where
the one that's there gets beat up.
Yeah,
the one that's there gets beat up. But I will say, and that's funny because the next book I have coming out that is under this Dear Alpha Female series is for mothers because I have a chance to see what it does to children when the mother is still so angry and bitter towards the dad. It tells them that part of me, there's something wrong with part of me. When my mother would talk about my father, when I was little, I would listen, I would feel empathy for my mother, but I internalized that, like, that's my dad. So if he's bad, then maybe I'm bad. And I see in different situations where the mother just hates the father, right? And not every situation. In some situations, the father is doing all he can, but because she's still heartbroken, she can't.
Those are two different situations.
That's a different situation.
Yeah.
But what it does is it hurts your children. And I told my kids, because again, it didn't go the way I would have liked it to after the divorce. But I told them, that's your father. You never disrespect your father.
Yes. Yeah.
Even if you don't think, because my son got a mouth on him, But even if you feel like he doesn't deserve your respect, it says more about you, how you treat your father, because you don't know what he went through. But that took me, and that was because of what I went through and having a dad that I wanted so badly to be a part of my life that was constantly rejecting me. So I'm like, I would never be one of those mothers that was like, you know what I mean?
You know what? I was that mother too. I tried it that way.
Yeah.
I kept his secrets so that my children could love him. And he used that opportunity to lie and manipulate.
Yeah.
And so when I got fed up, I'm like, man, fuck this. I'm gonna reveal the truth and all that. And then my children still didn't care. And so that's why I'm like, man, fuck all y'all. This is not fair.
Right.
Like I'm like, none of y'all. And I just felt like I was losing in every direction. And I also didn't have a lot, because there was someone, this is why I really wanted to talk about it, because my situation was so unique. You can try to co-parent, you can try to do the friendly route. You can try, just to, and try to protect your children from the truth. And then you're still co-parenting with someone who is a liar, manipulator, toxic, and they do everything to create chaos so they can get what they want.
Because they're not over the situation with you.
I know.
That goes both with men and women. So there are a lot of times a man is hurt, and even if he did the wrong thing, a man will treat you like trash.
And I'm like, but you did it.
And be hurt that you left.
Yeah, how dare you?
But they're interacting with the children. They're responding to everything based on that hurt that they have with you.
Yeah.
Just like with women, a woman is still, men feel like, oh, I don't want to be with you anymore. My husband's like, oh, I don't want to be with you anymore. Okay. So at first I'm like, but how can you not want to be with me? But these are our children that we created together. But that person is not, and a lot of times, especially if they have a lot of trauma, and in your situation there has to be, because the manipulation and the lying and being able to leverage things that are emotionally damaging shows that there's trauma, right? So that means that this relationship ending probably did more to him than you realize, right? and that's what he's acting out.
Yeah.
And you have to accept that and still go ahead and parent your children. And I don't think you can wait, because I had to learn, okay, I can't wait on him because this ain't happening. I'm going to parent teacher conference, so he doesn't even care. I got to move on. But I realized that it doesn't matter what you do, you can never erase DNA.
You cannot. And I use my story, y'all. And if you want to know in more detail, because I don't like to talk about those specific details over and over and over again, but you can go into season 1 and I talk about everything that went on in my first marriage. It's like a movie. It was extremely toxic. It was almost like an out of body experience, because it was not just, oh, he cheated. It was a lot more to my situation. And that's what made me really want to talk about, because there are a lot of situations that women are suddenly placed into, and then we have to be the provider, the leader, the protector, and then on top of that, we have to parent with someone that is just no good. And I know you probably feel alone, and I know you probably feel frustrated, and your children can feel that energy as well, and you're not a robot.
Yeah.
And so I had to figure out a way to heal and get through it, because suddenly then my children started to act out and do things towards me as well. And so it magnified a lot of toxic things that I was experiencing, a lot of hate that I was experiencing, and I really didn't do anything. I was very reactive to the things that were being done. And I also ultimately became bitter. I hated being a mother. I hated it. It was not fun, and I was receiving hate and confusion from every single angle, from my children and from my ex, and then everyone only saw him, my ex-husband, in a certain light, and then he was like the good guy. This is why I call him psycho, because ain't no way.
And our culture, we give a lot of grace. Women. I had an ex that was physically abusive, and my girlfriends, Crystal, what did you do?
Yeah.
What did you do? So our culture,
find fault and blame in us.
And I think that is something that ends up hurting us, because then it's like, I'm going through all this, but really there's fear on the other sides of that. But the reality is, what people act like is easy. You can lay down and create a baby with someone. It can create a lifetime of misery.
It really can.
It really can. It can create, because, and I see situations all the time. A lot of times it could be the woman that's doing everything that she can, and the man is acting a fool. But there's also dads out there. And that kind of helped me, because when I was going through my situation, I had a male friend who had custody of his 2 children, and his ex-wife was just taking him through it. I was like, damn. So I think, part of the message of this is, you're right, you're not alone. And I can promise you, and I told you this because you were there, saw the 15 years or 13 years I raised my children alone. And it was lonely, and it was hard, and I hated it. And that's why I didn't want any more children. I was like, this is not fun. I love them to death, but I remember I was dating this guy, and he was a basketball coach for a university. And so he coached, and he put on the refrigerator, when his games were on my refrigerator, and I'm taking my son Stone to soccer and Chanel to cheer, and doing PR in Atlanta. I had no time. I was dog tired every night. This Negro wrote his game, and I started hyperventilating. I broke up with him like the next day, because I was like, I cannot add nothing else to my schedule. And he was like, whoa. But I was just like, I am overwhelmed. I am trying to be a good mom. I am failing at all of this. I feel like I'm trying to be this great entrepreneur woman, trying to keep the kids together, trying to be a good domestic. The house is like, I can't add nothing else to my schedule. Like, I got no more room. I feel like I ran out of gas. When I finally got my son went to college early, I remember dropping him off and just like, what the hell did I just do? Like, this is crazy. It was crazy. So when I would meet guys that had children, I'd be like, nah. I got nothing left in this tank. But I can say to you, and I'll say to other single moms, people saw that journey. It is always worth it, and it does come together. It is not fair. Life just is not fair. It's not fair. But
it happens.
It happens.
Walk around sad and mad.
I would say to young women, be careful. Be careful who you choose to have a child with. Be a lot more mindful. And in our situation, we were married. So people look at me, it's like, oh, well, you were married. I was married and with my husband for 13 years and I still ended up a baby mom.
Yeah.
So, but you have to be more mindful. We have to pick better. And there's one thing that, there was this whole thing with Kevin Samuels and people thought he was this or whatever. Whatever your opinion of him was, one of the things that he would tell women is that whoever you have children with, that is giving that man the highest honor.
Yep.
And that means that you see him as someone that you see with integrity. I'm telling you, a lot of times you don't know it, especially when you're young. Because when you're young, we had a kid. Who knew at the time I got pregnant? I had my daughter at 20. Who knew?
I was 16, so you
don't know. But you got to be more mindful of who you have children with on both sides. Men, just because she fine and got a fat ass, they don't want to do that. Because then later when you're dealing with the fact that your kids, you can't get access to your kids and she got new dudes around, and she's not speaking to you, she's taking child support, trying to, all of that stuff is because you were not aware. But for those of us that are in the situation, you have to know that it is not fair. It's not supposed to be fair. But you do what you have to do, and later your children are going to have to work. My children, that's their journey. They're going to have to reconcile their issues and their emotions with their father the way I had to do with mine.
Yeah, and that's what I tell my son and my daughter now. I'm like, I'm not dealing with him. I don't even have conversations with him. I like to protect my peace. Right. Y'all can talk to him, but you need to understand that this is your father. These are his characteristics. This is what you can count on. He is who he is. Now you can choose, to have a relationship with him, but this is what comes with it.
Yeah.
Or you can choose not to.
Yeah.
It's completely up to you. But we're mothers, right? We carry our babies. They come from us, literally. And so we want our children to be happy.
We want to protect them.
We want to protect them. But they're going to love their daddy regardless.
You can't protect them from their dad.
And so I'm like, you're going to find out on your own, and hopefully it's going to be a much better experience than I had. But my advice for women and men that is dealing with, you've had children with someone that, and it's a whole toxic, bad, horrible, dark, heavy, draining situation. The way I managed to get through and how I'm still getting through it is I found time to have conversations about me and my feelings. I talked about it. I took accountability in my choices. I chose him. This is what I'm dealing with. Now, how am I going to choose to react? I also talked about, my childhood. I'm losing my own mother. The experience I have as being a mother myself. You have to talk about it versus keeping it in, because it's almost like going to the bathroom. When you eat, you gotta get rid of that waste. You can't just keep it all in. Otherwise, I can just imagine what having time bodies and just keep it all in.
You know what? You also gotta figure out what was going on in me that attracted that person.
I know, and I'm mad.
Because if you don't figure that out, you will attract another one. It's a different package.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things I was like, okay, I can't go back to that. So when I started seeing that I had to take responsibility for, not only did I pick the person, but there was something in me that was broken and I needed to fix that, because otherwise you're going to keep attracting. And a lot of women are in that cycle of continuing to attract men, and the only person you can blame for that is yourself, because you are the common denominator. So
I used to wonder why, how a woman that was in an abusive relationship, turn around and you get a whole nother abusive man. How?
You drew that to you.
Yeah, it's in you. It's in your energy. It's probably how you speak and carry yourself.
Well, it's something that's broken that you haven't gotten healing from, and if you don't heal, you're going to repeat. You're going to continue to repeat it.
And y'all, it's hard to heal when you with somebody. So if you have an opportunity,
you can't
to be by yourself. It's okay. Honestly, I was purposely single for many moons. At least I'm in my very first relationship in my 30s. My last relationship, I was 27. And it was cool, but what's the point? No, it's too much to just, you have to consider someone. It's a lot of conversation you gotta have, and I'm experiencing it now. But I'm in a space of where I'm way more aware of myself. Yeah. I'm way more settled. I'm more comfortable in my own skin. I'm not venturing off and trying to discover different things. I am really happy if I'm sitting right here in the room by myself and nobody else is around.
Yeah.
I'm happy and I'm content.
Yeah.
If you can feel like that, you're good to go.
That's
but if
true.
you find yourself you're yearning for something and you need somebody around or you just need to get up and move, something going on.
And that sounds so cliche, but it's so true. Because I'm just like, I bought a house. I really was like, I'm okay. And if it doesn't happen, I'm okay with that. And I have good friends. I hang out with them sometimes. But I'm also like you. I'm good with just being in the house myself.
It's fun.
In fact, sometimes I would prefer that. In fact, now I'll be like, my husband drives trucks, but at first I was like, you are here and you are still here.
That's how I've been looking at mine. Like, you don't have to go out the country again just yet. And ain't about that time.
Yeah, I enjoy my peace and solitude. And that's when you know that you've gotten all that other stuff out, because when you haven't gotten that stuff out, you need a distraction, and people are a distraction. I don't think that you can heal in a relationship with someone else, because you probably got that person based on you being broken.
Yeah, you are what you attracted. Honestly, like the energy is, they say energy is never lie. The universe will actually talk to you. Like what you put out is what you will attract. It's almost like when you say, I am beautiful, then you're going to feel beautiful. It's almost like when you say, okay, well, I want to go after this, I want to conquer this. Like you can speak goals and you can speak positive things because it's what you want. But when you say negative things, and when you do negative things, it has the same effect.
It does. And even if you know what, the biggest thing I've learned this year working on this movie project, this was the most mind-blowing thing. Fear and faith are the same thing.
Explain it for this.
Okay. Fear and faith are the same thing. So there's a movie, Fear, Deion Taylor, that I did some press on, and they were talking about the concept of fear. And I realized that he said fear, basically, whatever there's the saying that what you fear will come upon you, right? Because you put energy into the fear, just like you put energy into the faith. So for me, I did not want to be, when I grew up, my mom was, my brother and I in a house. We didn't have much. My dad wasn't there, and I hated being broke. I hated us being poor, and I did not ever want to be that. So I was like, I'm going to get good grades. I'm going to go to college so I can have a great job. I'm going to have a husband. And so I had created this right? Yeah. But deep inside, I was always afraid of ending up like I was like my mom, right? So at the point I got divorced, something happened. My ex-husband did some crazy stuff. I ended up homeless. And I looked around and I was like, I am homeless with 2 kids. I ended up exactly in that circle that I had feared, because I put energy into that fear. That fear that motivated me to accomplish things, it was still driving me, and it ended up taking me in a circle and bringing me right back there. And it's like faith is what you believe that you can't see, but you move towards. Fear is what you give energy to that you can't see, but you are moving towards. It is the same concept. And that's why they tell people people say you can't have faith and have fear. This is true. And I never understood that. I was like, whatever, I have faith and I'm afraid. And guess what? The fear is stronger, because it's a powerful, motivating thing. And it's telling the universe, I feel like this is stronger than me. And that's what happened. Women that are afraid I'm going to be alone, I'm afraid all men are dogs, really, you're afraid that you're going to end up, you're not enough to get something different. You're going to create that reality. Yeah. You have to check those fears, and you have to build your faith. You cannot feed your fear. Yeah. When you feed it, and sometimes feeding the fear sounds like a bad chick, right? I don't need no man. You're just afraid that nobody's going to love you, little girl. Right. That is not the truth. And so you're feeding that, and you're creating this big monster that's going to do exactly what you're
right,
saying.
and you won't have one, or the one that you get is not
be
ain't
good.
All right, so with those that are dealing with, so they may be listening like, you know what, I'm an alpha female, and I think I need to kind of, simmer down. I don't like how I talk to, my husband or my boyfriend. I don't like how I'm talking to my children. I want to start speaking more life over myself, and I want to feel better about myself. Take us a look into what Dear Alpha Female is now you as him.
Yes.
And how can they apply this book to their life?
So basically, this book the title is Dear Alpha Female. It's not him, it's you. But then the second part that nobody looks at is the interactive devotional design to help you attract the love you deserve. And for even women that are in a relationship, really, I think the first thing is discovering what created your alpha. Right? Because if you're talking to people crazy, if you're at the job, if you're being a bitch, there's something inside that created that. And most of the time, 99% of the time, it's built in fear. right? And so this book, I had to actually, because I was this person that was believing, I'm not a BIT, I just don't have the energy like that, but what I was is very, very structured. And because I was afraid of not being taken seriously as a businesswoman, I was very, very structured, right? And people create structure because they're afraid of what's going to happen if they're not in control. And so I feel like a lot of times alpha females, we like situations that we can control. Work is something that I can control, right? So a lot of times you end up attracting a man that you think you can control. Then you're going to be resentful of him because he's not this take charge man. You don't want to submit. But sis, you wouldn't allow a man to come in the picture and give him anything. You wanted something that you could control.
Yeah, that you can boss around.
That you could boss around, or that you felt like, okay, he has to have this, and this, because if I did this would be perfect for me. You're trying to control the situation. Yeah. And that never works. Not when it comes to love. It really doesn't work when it comes to jobs either. But in a career situation, it's a little bit different, because I do think alpha personality and characteristics can be advantageous, but you have to know how to check that alpha. Yeah. And you don't need to show up as an alpha aggressive personality with someone that you love, right? But I feel like if you read this book, and there's devotional design to help you work through these situations, and at the base of a lot of that is me not feeling like I'm good enough. So I have to show up with this bravado to like boast and brag. Because really, when you're confident, and I see this in you, you don't post perfect pictures doing all this braggadocious stuff, but I know I look at you and I see a confident woman. Confidence is not about screaming and saying I'm the baddest bitch. Whatever you see somebody doing that, you can tell that really is, it's coming from a place of fear and almost desperation. Because I'm trying to convince you of something that I'm not really convinced of. And when we operate like that in relationships, trust me, men don't want to deal with that. An amazing man is not going to deal with that. You're going to get a man that's either trying to use you. You lead with your money and your success. You're going to get a man that wants to get some of that money and that success. Or you're going to turn off the right one that would not. And so this is basically trying to basically design, because I needed the help. I had a young man that checked the mess out of me. And I needed that. Like, I feel like we need.
You was bold enough to go on there.
She checked me, but I feel like women I respect, I want them to check me. Like, if you called me and was like,
if she get in my face like this and yell at me in my face,
well, she didn't do that though. Okay. She went off your energy like that. She told me something and she was telling me the truth, and I was like, okay, because I know it was the truth. But I respect you. If you call and tell me, Crystal, that one, I'm gonna listen to that, right?
Likewise,
I respect that. So it's like when she was like, "You wrong." Like, if you keep this, I'm thinking it's just the dating pool in Atlanta, niggas here. Like, but when she was like, "What are you putting out? Why do you keep attracting?" You just said, "Crystal, you were picking wrong." Yeah. I was picking wrong, and then upset because I was alone. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because I really wasn't able to relinquish control. I had all these things set up to try to keep me safe because I didn't want to end up hurt and rejected again. But the reality is there's no such guarantee. When it comes to work, I was a publicist for years. You have clients come, they go. I was okay with that, right? I didn't take that personally if a client left. Hell, sometimes I was happy they left. Right. But when it comes to relationships, we look at it like, oh no, I need to be able to control everything. It's not real. It's not. And
I'm really excited and happy about the space that you're in now. And I am continuing to grow into my space. So what I did with my boyfriend now was, when we decided to date, from day one, we were very transparent, open about what we wanted, right? And so I was very open and transparent about my take on relationships. And the fact that I hadn't been in one, so I already know how to do it. Right. And then when I did do it, I married really young, so I wasn't that great of a wife because I knew I was doing it. Right. Then I had 2 boyfriends after that I kind of just accidentally started being with, so they wasn't really worth being. So I didn't really know how to pursue and maintain a relationship. So we started doing these check-ins.
That's cute.
And I was like, ooh, okay, this is fun. So I could tell you, okay, I don't like this, I don't like that. Okay, I like this, I like that. And so we just kept that going. Yeah. And we continued to do that. And I remember I just said this to him last night because I was trying to take a shower. And I had realized the water's not pouring over the floor anymore, because what he would do is he'll keep the shower head pointed back, and I will forget to close the curtain all the way so the water won't get out. Right. And he will forget to consider me after the fact. And it used to piss me off because I would walk away to let the water get warm, and I'll come back and all the water before now I'm pissed. And last time I realized it hadn't happened in a while, and I said, "Baby, have you been showering?" Because ain't no water been on the floor. So he was like, "But no, I've been listening to you."
Aww.
And I get girl, that's what I did. Yeah, I jumped on the bed and I just started hugging and kissing him. And I was like, "Oh my gosh, you really be listening." And so I'm really enjoying getting to know him, and I like what we're doing. So,
but I like the fact that you should have started. You guys are being transparent. That's the only way. Like I said, for us, it was like, okay, I ain't been in a relationship. This is what I got. I got all this stuff. I'm on this. And I think a lot of times with alpha females, we're controlling our image. A lot of women, it's like, you got makeup and I remember talking to this young girl and she told me that she was never around her fiance without a full face of makeup on. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with makeup and get your hair done and all that, but a real relationship with substance, you have to be willing to be transparent.
Absolutely.
You have to be willing to show up as your real self, because he can't date the representative. Eventually you're going to get tired and resentful of him, of having to put up this fake false pretense for somebody, and he's not really able to love you for you. The problem is a lot of us don't love ourselves unconditionally.
That's funny. I was just about to say that because I'm like, she must don't like herself, because ain't no way I'm about to be pretending. Like, either you're going to get to know me and like me or you're not. But this is me, and I think that I'm great, and you're going to get to know every single angle of me.
Yeah.
You're going to see me plain, and you're going to see me dolled up.
Yeah.
You're going to see me when I cry.
Yeah.
Girl, this is when I knew that I like my boyfriend, because I was frustrated one day and he literally just started, he took my little face and he just started reassuring me. He just started reassuring me and just started wiping away my tears. And I wasn't afraid to just continue to cry and allow him just to see that ugly cry.
Stuff to me.
And I was like, I really, it's more than love, because you can love somebody and you not like them. But I can show really like him.
Like not without, but really vulnerably naked. And I think that's something that a lot of women are afraid to do. And if you walk into a room, women walk into a room, I have this degree, I have this, I have this, I have this, I have that.
You don't care about that.
That doesn't. And what it does is you're putting a wall and saying, this is where I want to be. Right?
This is my work. This makes me work.
This makes me work. So when you take all that away, because really at the house, nobody cares about that. You know what I mean? So you have to be willing to let all that down. And that's why you shouldn't lead with those things. You should lead with honesty and transparency, which is what you guys are doing.
Yeah, that's what we did from the jump. I just wanted to enjoy him. I didn't want to pretend. I didn't want to be upset. And I didn't want to have no attitudes. And when I do have something I want to address, I just say it, because why not? You started that way, but that's how you started, how you finished. You know, in some relation to what I liked about him when I met him. When I could tell he was kind of like, you introduced me, but then you kind of told him a little bit about our history, and he was like, oh, okay. So then he actually gave me more energy, like, oh, this is someone that's important to her. Yeah. So I was because he knows how
I picked up. I
am.
picked up that on that really quickly. I was like, oh wow, he was that in tune and gave that respect to me because of the relationship I had with you.
Yes, he does that to my friends. He will give a little bit more attention. And get to know y'all a little bit more, because
it's important.
It's important to me. And he sees that I don't allow a lot of people in my space. And if I say this is my friend.
Yeah, I saw him respond to that. I was like, wow.
Yeah, he's a good guy. I like him. I said, okay, he's not around. Girl, no, you're not.
Praise God for delivering men that are
attractive. Sometimes I be looking at him like, oh, baby, so. I tell you this all the time. Oh, baby, so. You're like, thank you.
I ain't taking this pretty ass nowhere else, because we don't get hit on. I said, women have hit on both of us. I said, they're just doing this because they're trying to get to you. I'm not taking your pretty ass out no more. But I think when you relax and you allow him to be him, and you're gonna get what you want. You know, women are so afraid, fear again, of you're gonna get somebody you're not attracted to, or they don't have money, they don't have all that. I didn't lead with that, but we good. Yeah. You know, we good. We taken care of. You know, he good. Yeah. So it just like when I stopped putting all this stuff, God brought me exactly what I needed, and even a little extra. Yeah, 6'2".
I know. Yeah, and he's a nice little thick.
We've been working on the arms and the shoulders.
I mean, my boyfriend is not a big one, but you know, I saw him.
I saw it.
Gary, he looked. I can't get never not keep talking about it, but he is, y'all.
No, you good.
I pretty.
Sister approves. I approve. Yes.
Yeah, so I'm enjoying allowing myself to be feminine with him, but he also allows me to be an alpha. And just be myself, and it's a good blend. So I'm gonna encourage anyone that's listening to this episode, if you find yourself not happy and feeling full when you're by yourself, to pay attention to why and figure out and go to the beginning. Like Crystal, you gotta go back to the beginning and discover how did you become this way. And you may not know where to start, so you just gotta start talking, and that can be counseling. I also have Lit Diaries, where we do have these therapeutic conversations. So you can come to Lit Diaries and you can talk things through. You can write them out, make it make sense. And honestly, find your community and a tribe that can kind of help you grow and evolve as a person. Because honestly, we can't do it by ourselves. Enough of us is not really going to church like that, and sometimes church is really not what it used to be. So kind of
church and this, I think church and
definitely, because this type of conversation don't really be happening in church. Like they really be by the book or by the scripture. And honestly, we need a more of a realistic approach to what's going on today. So come to Lit Diaries. We have a lot of conversations like this.
I'm gonna come get in on some of that.
Yeah, we do a lot of because this is a house of healing and expression. So I figure, people need a space like this, and it's centered around words. We have a manifestation wall, y'all, so y'all can come and manifest the things over your life. We're going to have a lot of workbooks like that. We need to get this on the shelf, too.
Yeah, I need to break some
but we're going to have some gratitude journals, y'all, some manifestation journals, some dreaming journals, how to deal with trauma, we're going to have some diaries, because I feel that healing does start with actually talking. It starts with the words, y'all. So, Crystal, thank you so much for being a part of Traces of Mika, y'all.
A part of Mika.
Yeah.
I just want to say one thing to any women out there. I think being an alpha female is not a negative thing. It's actually a beautiful thing.
So like an alpha female.
Exactly. There's nothing wrong. And I think there's this narrative that we have to realize that the fact that you are ambitious, the fact that you've overcome,
and strong
is a beautiful
love that embrace.
It's a beautiful thing. Yeah, don't and you will find the love that you deserve, which means a man that will appreciate that. Your guy appreciates that in you. Mine appreciates and celebrates. So don't believe that you can't have a man. You have to dumb down. I hate when people say you have to dumb down for a man. That's not true. You just don't have the right one. And it may be because you're not showing up in your essence of who you are. And once you do that, you're going to attract a man that's going to appreciate every single piece of that. So I just wanted to make sure I said that, because I just get tired of people looking at alpha females as a negative thing.
And if you do find yourself, like it's a little bit part of you where you're not being fully authentic, you fucking up, y'all.
That's on you, sis.
Like it's not going to work. You got to switch that up, and you got to be yourself. And if you have to see if they will accept you and all that, every little part of yourself, see if they will accept that. And if they don't, it's okay. Again, if you are not okay being alone, there's a problem. There's something going on, something deeper. So I'm going to encourage y'all to keep working on y'all, keep healing. I will continue to heal out loud even past this season. So y'all make sure y'all follow me and stuff. And I'm going on tour, y'all. So I have the Traces of You tour. Is going to go to Los Angeles, Chicago, Charlotte, Miami, obviously Atlanta, back home in Dallas, Fort Worth, so forth and so forth, because I want to have conversations about you and you discovering who you are. So Traces of You tour is coming to the city of New York. So thank you, Crystal. Appreciate y'all.
Brown girl,
love y'all. Bye.
So beautiful to me. I hope you see. Hey there, little brown girl, I just want you to see that if your gums aren't pink and your edges aren't asleep, that don't mean you're in.
Mika new house, one of my favorites. The new book,